Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by telling you something most people will never have the courage to admit. Success isn't complicated. It's not some mystical secret passed down to the chosen few. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's not even intelligence. Success is a formula. Predictable, measurable, repeatable, and it lives in the small, daily, unsexy, non-negotiable habits that you either do or don't do. And here's the truth that will slap you across the face if you're honest enough to receive it. The life you're living today is nothing more than the compound interest of your daily habits. That's it. You want to know where you'll be 5 years from now? Don't ask a psychic. Don't pray for a sign. Just look at your daily routines. They'll tell you your destiny louder than any crystal ball. Now, I've spent decades studying not only peak performers, but also the neuroscience of human behavior. And when you strip away the noise, what you find is this. The brain doesn't give a damn about your dreams. It doesn't care about your vision board or the motivational quotes you plaster on Instagram. Your brain cares about one thing: survival. Which means it's hardwired to keep you comfortable, safe, and predictable. That's why success feels like swimming upstream, because every single day, you're fighting against millions of years of evolutionary wiring that tells you to stay in your warm little cave, to eat, to rest, to conserve energy, to avoid risk. That's why most people never make it. They confuse comfortable with happy. But here's where it gets interesting. Neuroscience also shows us that the brain is plastic, meaning it rewires itself based on what you repeatedly do. That's both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it means if you keep feeding it garbage, distraction, procrastination, excuses, it will hardwire laziness into your nervous system. But liberating because if you consistently enforce the right daily habits, it stops fighting you and starts working for you. That's when you unlock momentum. That's when discipline becomes automatic. That's when success stops being a distant dream and becomes your default operating system. Now, don't think for 1 second that habits are just about brushing your teeth or making your bed. I'm talking about 10 fundamental daily habits that, if practiced with relentless consistency, will change your life forever. And I don't mean they'll just make you feel better. I mean they'll reprogram your brain, hardwire success into your body, and build a foundation that compounds every single day you're alive. Let's walk through them, not as a checklist, not as a life hack, but as a living blueprint you can burn into your routine. The first is brutal honesty with yourself. Most people live in a fog of lies they tell themselves every single day. I'll start tomorrow, I'm doing my best, I don't have time. All lies. You want to change your life? Look in the mirror and tell yourself the truth. If you're overweight, stop saying big boned. You're fat. If you're broke, stop saying struggling. Financially irresponsible. If you're lazy, stop saying I'm tired. You're undisciplined. The brain responds to clarity. And when you rip the bandage off and face reality, you activate what's called the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's error detection system. That part of your brain lights up when it notices a mismatch between where you are and where you should be. And once it's activated, you can start correcting course, but you'll never light it up if you keep lying to yourself. The second daily habit is movement. Not exercise for vanity, not because you want six-pack abs for Instagram. I'm talking about moving your body every single day because your brain is a biological organ that depends on oxygen and blood flow to function. When you move, you increase brain drive zone neurotrophic factor, BDNF. That's like Miracle-Gro for your neurons. It strengthens synaptic connections, makes learning easier, memory sharper, creativity faster. People who move every day literally have a neurological edge over those who don't. You think Steve Jobs walked around barefoot in circles for nothing? Those walking meetings were neurological hacks. Movement isn't optional if you want a high-performance brain. It's mandatory. The third habit is ruthless control of your environment. Most of you are trying to win while living in a minefield. Your phone is loaded with distractions. Your fridge is stocked with junk food. Your friends are toxic. Your workspace is chaotic. Your evenings are dominated by meaningless screen time. You're trying to build a skyscraper on a swamp. Neuroscience shows that willpower is finite. It's like a muscle. If you keep putting yourself in tempting, toxic, chaotic environments, you're forcing yourself to waste energy on resistance instead of execution. The smartest people don't rely on willpower. They design their environment so that success is the path of least resistance. You want to eat clean? Don't buy garbage food. You want to focus? Stop hanging out with people who think small. The fourth habit is obsession with your mornings, because the first 90 minutes of your day set the neurological tone for the next 15 hours. It's not philosophy, it's chemistry. Cortisol levels spike in the morning, and if you pair that natural surge with structured habits, movement, reflection, planning, you program your body and mind for productivity. But if you roll over, check Instagram, scroll through emails, you're teaching your brain to start the day in reactive mode. And once you start reactive, you stay reactive. That's why some of you feel behind all day. You gave your brain away in the first 10 minutes of waking up. The fifth daily habit is extreme focus. Stop multitasking. It's a myth. Neuroscience is crystal clear. The brain cannot fully focus on two tasks at once. What you're really doing is task searching. And every switch burns glucose, drains attention, and kills performance. High performers schedule deep work. They guard their time like a lion guards its cubs. They understand that 90 minutes of uninterrupted focus is worth more than 10 hours of distracted busyness. Focus is the new superpower, and every time you check your phone in the middle of work, you're handing your power away like a fool. The sixth habit is emotional regulation. Don't misunderstand this one. It doesn't mean suppressing emotions, it means mastering them. Because neuroscience shows that emotions aren't just feelings, they're chemical instructions to the body. Anger, fear, stress. They flood your system with cortisol and adrenaline, narrowing your thinking, killing your creativity, and sabotaging your decision-making. High performers train their nervous system to regulate emotions through breathing, reflection, reframing, meditation. They learn to pause before reacting. They don't waste energy on tantrums. They don't let temporary feelings derail permanent goals. The seventh habit is ruthless prioritization. Every single day, you must decide what matters most and then give it everything. Most people waste 80% of their day on tasks that don't move the needle. They confuse being busy with being productive. They answer emails, they shuffle papers, they run errands, and at the end of the day, they wonder why they're exhausted but no closer to their dreams. The brain loves closure. It loves crossing off easy little tasks. But success comes from fighting that instinct and focusing only on what matters most. The eighth habit is reflection and learning. Every day before you sleep, your brain naturally enters a process of consolidation, moving memories from short-term storage in the hippocampus to long-term storage in the neocortex. That process is more powerful if you deliberately review your day. What worked, what failed, what must I do differently tomorrow? Reflection teaches your brain to extract wisdom from experience instead of mindlessly repeating mistakes. The ninth habit is gratitude. Not the fluffy kind you see in self-help books, but the biological kind. Gratitude lowers cortisol, increases serotonin, boosts dopamine. It literally rewires your brain to notice opportunities instead of threats. People who practice gratitude daily have higher resilience, stronger immune systems, and better relationships. Gratitude is not a soft skill. It's a neurological tool for performance. And the 10th, the most important habit of all, relentless execution. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop overthinking. Stop planning for the right time. The brain learns through action, not contemplation. Every time you take action, you create feedback loops. You learn, you adapt, you grow. And the more you act, the more your brain builds myelin around those circuits, making action faster, easier, more natural. That's how discipline is born. Not through wishing, but through firing and wiring action circuits until they're automatic. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That sounds hard. Yes, it is. Of course it is. Do you expect changing your life forever to be easy? Do you think reprogramming millions of years of evolution comes without sweat, discomfort, sacrifice? Of course not. But hard doesn't mean impossible. Hard means worthy. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I worked with a young man who came to me in complete disarray. He was in his mid-20s, overweight, broke, living in his parents' basement, and constantly depressed. He thought he needed a miracle, some massive stroke of luck to turn his life around. But I told him flat out, miracles are for fools. What you need is structure. What you need is habits. He resisted at first. He thought it was beneath him. Daily habits? That sounds boring, he said. I told him, of course it's boring. Success is boring. Success is doing the right thing over and over again until the world can't ignore you anymore. So I gave him the same formula I'm giving you tonight. 10 habits, no excuses, no exceptions. The first 30 days, he hated it. His body resisted, his brain fought him. He wanted to quit every morning, but slowly something shifted. His body started to feel stronger. His mind started to feel clearer. His environment stopped suffocating him. Within a year, he was unrecognizable, not just in his bank account, not just in his body, but in his presence, his energy, his confidence. He went from being invisible to unstoppable. And he didn't find a miracle, he built momentum. He didn't find luck, he forged discipline. That's the formula, that's the truth. See, here's the trap most of you fall into. You want fireworks, but you don't respect the spark. You think success comes in one massive leap, one viral moment, one golden opportunity. But success doesn't show up like an explosion, it shows up like compounding interest. You don't notice it at first. It's invisible, it's unimpressive. It feels like nothing is happening. But if you keep stacking the right habits day after day, eventually the compound effect explodes in your favor. Then people call you lucky. They say, oh, it must be nice. No, it's not nice. It's earned. And let me drill something into your skull. Every single day, you're either compounding toward success or compounding toward regret. There's no neutral. Every skipped workout, every wasted hour, every excuse, compounding. Every focused block of work, every deep breath, every act of discipline, compounding. And 5 years from now, the person you become will be nothing more than the interest paid on the daily deposits you made today. Now, you might ask, why 10 habits? Why not 5? Why not 20? Neuroscience shows that the brain struggles with overload. Too many habits and you burn out. Too few and you don't cover enough ground to create systemic change. 10 is the sweet spot. These 10 create a web of reinforcement, each one feeding the other, each one amplifying the rest. Honesty fuels focus. Movement fuels emotional regulation. Gratitude fuels execution. It's a closed loop, a self-sustaining system. But let me warn you, the first 90 days are hell. That's when your old wiring screams at you. That's when your comfort zone claws at you. That's when your lazy brain throws tantrums, whispering, this isn't working, just quit. You're tired, you're too busy. And if you cave in those 90 days, you'll never break free. But if you push through, if you embrace the discomfort, if you do it anyway, then one day you'll wake up and realize something shocking. It's harder not to do the habits than it is to do them. They become who you are. And that's when you're free. Now, freedom isn't about doing whatever you want, whenever you want. That's chaos, not freedom. Real freedom is the ability to do what you must, even when you don't feel like it. Real freedom is being the master of your own mind, not the slave of your impulses. And these habits give you that freedom. They rewire your brain so that discipline becomes natural, execution becomes automatic, and mediocrity becomes impossible. Think about it this way. A plane burns the most fuel during takeoff. That's the hardest part. But once it's at cruising altitude, it glides on momentum. Habits are the same. The beginning is brutal, but once you're airborne, the system carries you. And the beautiful thing about habits is they don't ask you for brilliance. They don't ask you for perfection. They only ask you for repetition. Let me share another story. There was a woman, mid-30s, mother of 2, working full-time, exhausted every day. She told me she had no time for herself, no time to grow, no time to dream. And I told her something that hit her like a brick. You don't have a time problem, you have a priority problem. She started waking up 90 minutes earlier, dedicating that time to the habits. Movement, reflection, focus, planning. Within 6 months, she built a side business that matched her salary. Within 2 years, she was financially free. Did she find more hours in the day? No. She reallocated her time to the right habits, and her life transformed. Every one of you in this room has the same 24 hours as the greatest achievers in history. Einstein, Jobs, Musk, Mandela, same 24 hours. The difference is not time, the difference is habits. What are you doing with your 24? Are you feeding your brain, your body, your purpose? Or are you feeding your distractions, your fears, your excuses? Science tells us habits are anchored in the basal ganglia, the part of the brain that automates repetitive behavior. That's why habits feel so powerful, so stubborn. But here's the good news. The same mechanism that makes bad habits hard to break is the same mechanism that makes good habits unstoppable once they're installed. Your brain doesn't care if the loop is self-destruction or self-mastery. It just runs the program you install, and you're the programmer. Every choice you make is a line of code. This is why I tell people success isn't an event, it's a system. And systems don't fail people. People fail to run the system. The system works if you work it. And if you run it long enough, it works every single time. Some of you are sitting here thinking, I don't know if I can do this. I've tried before, I failed. Good. You failed because you were supposed to fail. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the tuition you pay for success. Every failure carved the grooves in your brain that make future discipline possible. The only failure that kills is quitting. Now let me get real with you for a moment. The world doesn't care about your excuses. The universe doesn't reward intentions. Life only responds to execution. You can have the best ideas, the biggest dreams, the purest heart, but if you don't have the daily discipline to execute, you're nothing more than potential energy that will die in silence. The graveyard is filled with people who had great potential. Don't join them. There's the paradox. The most extraordinary lives are built on the most ordinary days. The difference between a billionaire and a beggar is not what they do once in a while. It's what they do every day. Success isn't sexy. Success is showing up, doing the work, ignoring the noise, and stacking habits until they crush mediocrity under their weight. And I'll tell you this, if you install these 10 habits, honesty, movement, environment, mornings, focus, emotional regulation, prioritization, reflection, gratitude, execution, you will not recognize yourself a year from now. Your family won't recognize you. Your friends won't recognize you. You'll become the kind of person who scares small-minded people because you embody what they fear. Discipline, clarity, freedom, power. But that choice is yours. Nobody can hand it to you. Nobody can do the habits for you. Nobody can rewire your brain except you. You can walk out of here tonight and say, that was inspiring, and go back to your old routines. Or you can walk out of here tonight and say, that was a line in the sand. That was the day I stopped lying to myself. That was the day I took control. Ladies and gentlemen, life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you're willing to work for, what you're willing to fight for, what you're willing to suffer for. Habits are the battlefield. And every day, you're either winning or losing. So I leave you with this. Start today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when things calm down. Today. Install the formula, build the habits, rewire your brain, and I promise you this, when you look back 5 years from now, you'll thank yourself for the pain, for the discipline, for the discomfort. Because you'll realize that what felt hard in the moment was the price of freedom. And freedom, my friends, is the ultimate success formula. Let me take you deeper, because if all you walk away with tonight is inspiration, then I've failed you. Inspiration fades, emotion fades. You get fired up for a day or two, maybe a week, and then life smothers it out of you. What lasts isn't inspiration, it's identity. And habits are how you forge identity. You see, when you repeat an action long enough, your brain no longer says, I'm doing this. It begins to say, I am this. That's the difference. At first, you're forcing yourself to wake up early. You're forcing yourself to move. You're forcing yourself to write down your priorities. But one day you cross a threshold. You're no longer forcing, it becomes who you are. And that's when success stops being fragile and starts being permanent. Think about the smoker who quits. For months, they grit their teeth, resisting every craving. But eventually, they no longer see themselves as a smoker who's trying to quit. They become a non-smoker. Identity shifts. That's the deepest transformation habits create. You stop being a person who's trying to be disciplined. You become a disciplined person. You stop being someone who's trying to succeed, and you become a success-driven machine. An identity once forged is nearly unbreakable. Neuroscience backs this up. There's a structure in your brain called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for self-control and decision-making. When you force habits at first, you're straining the system. But the more consistent you are, the less that system is needed, because the basal ganglia automates the behavior. In other words, You go from burning decision-making fuel every day to running on autopilot. That's why habits are so powerful. They free up your brain to focus on growth instead of survival. Now, let's talk about pain, because this is the elephant in the room. Every transformation requires pain. And yet most people design their lives around avoiding it. They avoid discomfort, they avoid risk, they avoid challenge. But pain is the currency of growth. Your brain grows stronger the same way your muscles do, through resistance. Neurons that fire under stress grow new connections, form new patterns, build resilience. That's called neuroplasticity. Without pain, without struggle, you don't rewire anything. You stay soft, stagnant, stuck. Here's the irony. People who avoid pain end up living in constant pain. They avoid the pain of discipline, and so they inherit the pain of regret. They avoid the pain of effort, and so they inherit the pain of mediocrity. They avoid the pain of growth, and so they inherit the pain of staying small. But those who embrace pain, those who lean into it, those who say, yes, this hurts, but I'll do it anyway, they inherit freedom. One of the most fascinating studies I've read comes from Stanford. Researchers looked at delayed gratification, the famous marshmallow test. They followed children for decades and found that those who could delay gratification for just 15 minutes, waiting for 2 marshmallows instead of taking one immediately, were more successful across every metric: health, wealth, relationships. Why? Because they trained their brain for discipline. They wired themselves for long-term reward instead of short-term comfort. That's what habits do. Every day you resist the marshmallow. Every day you choose long-term growth over short-term ease. You're not just changing your schedule, you're changing your brain. But let me be clear, knowledge isn't enough. You already know most of what I've said. You've heard about discipline, about focus, about gratitude, but knowledge doesn't change lives, execution does. There's a gap between knowing and doing, and that gap is where most dreams disappear. You close that gap with habits. Habits are the bridge between knowing and becoming. Let me share another real story. A young athlete I once mentored had talent oozing out of him. He was faster, stronger, more gifted than anyone around him, but he lacked habits. He skipped practice. He ate garbage. He stayed up all night on video games, and guess what? His talent went to waste. Meanwhile, another athlete with half the natural ability outworked him daily, built unshakable habits, and ended up playing at the highest levels. Talent gets you started, but habits keep you in the game. Talent opens the door, but habits decide if you walk through or not. This applies to every arena: business, health, relationships, creativity. Consistency beats brilliance. Systems beat inspiration. Daily habits beat rare bursts of effort. That's why the ultimate success formula isn't about being extraordinary. It's about being consistent in the ordinary. Now let me push you. Some of you will nod tonight, you'll clap, you'll say that makes sense, but you'll go home and do nothing. And 5 years from now, you'll be in the same place or worse. Why? Because you thought listening was enough. Listening isn't enough. Agreement isn't enough. The only thing that counts is action. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one habit tonight, not 10, not 5, one, and tomorrow do it relentlessly, without negotiation. Do it when you're tired. Do it when you're busy. Do it when you don't feel like it. Do it until it becomes you. Then add another, then another, until one day you've built the entire formula into your DNA. That's how you transform, not by talking about it, not by wishing for it, but by doing it one day at a time. And I'll end with this. Someday you'll be at the end of your life looking back, and in that moment, the only thing you'll feel is the weight of your habits. If you lived with discipline, if you fought through pain, if you built the right routines, you'll feel pride. You'll feel freedom. You'll feel peace. But if you lived with excuses, if you caved to comfort, if you avoided the hard choices, you'll feel regret. And regret, my friends, is the heaviest weight a human can carry. So I challenge you, don't wait, don't hesitate. Don't waste another day of your life drifting. The formula is here. The habits are clear. The choice is yours. Success is not a mystery. Success is not luck. Success is not for the chosen few. Success is a formula, and if you live it, if you breathe it, if you execute it, then ultimate success isn't just possible, It's inevitable. And when that day comes, when you've built a life so powerful, so disciplined, so free, you won't need to tell anyone you've succeeded. They'll see it in your eyes. They'll feel it in your presence. They'll know it in the way you walk into a room. Because success, real success, is never hidden. It shines. And it shines brightest in those who earned it daily. Thank you.